Men of War number 8, written by Jeff Lemire and Matt Kint, art by Tom Derenick. We are pretty much in the end of the series. This is the final issue, and as such, it doesn't really connect to the previous two. So, this is a story about Frankenstein and G.I. Robot. So, we open up on a man who's doing some, robotics work inside of a Japanese military prison, and apparently he let some guy out named Lieutenant Shreve, who's going to send some information to the Allies. So this is World War II, by the way, in case it wasn't clear. But regardless, he makes his way to Russia, sends some information, and we don't know what that is yet. Meanwhile, over in London, 1941, the Germans had been bombing for, I believe it says 76 days. And as such, they launch Operation Green Man, which is basically, let's send Frankenstein up in a plane and he'll just start killing everybody. And that happens for 4 pages here. And his little plane has a picture of his wife painted on the side, Bride of Frankenstein. But anyway, he shoots down a few people, but he's like, psh, I do better without a gun. So he jumps out of his plane, having a collide with someone else, and then just starts going after pilots with his sword. And he's all in on this. But finally he parachutes to the ground, and we see that Father Time, in his previous body, because currently it is a young woman that he is, or she is looking like, now it's just an old man who you would stereotypically think of as Father Time, is talking to Winston Churchill saying see, isn't he great out on the field? So Frankenstein comes in and shakes Winston Churchill's hand and be like, I am proud to serve you and your countrymen, Mr. Prime Minister. But then more info comes in and they say all right, Frankenstein, we got a job for you. You're going to have to head east and head to Japan. Meanwhile, part 2, Bride of Frankenstein is doing a sexy dance thing at a club at a Japanese bar. And as such, she is acting as a spy, getting some information from some Japanese military higher-ups, and they're giving out military secrets because I guess they don't think she's a threat, what with the green skin and 4 arms and all. But regardless, she gets some information about an attack planned on New York soon. And then she gets a telegram saying that she needs an emergency extraction. So basically we just get a scene of her going through an entire military base, just knocking heads, shooting people, breaking in. And we see that her job was to break in to the cell of that guy from the first page who was building the thing out of machinery. And as soon as she gets in, he's like, it's too late, I let the thing out. And she's like, oh, okay, so we're all doomed then. The Allies has lost. And he's like, maybe not, because the thing that the Japanese were having me build was a killer attack robot that would work for the Axis forces. However, I changed it to work for the Allied forces. So that's a thing. Then we cut to a boat in the North Pacific Ocean that Frankenstein and Father Time are on. And they look through the periscope and they see this robot just swimming at Mach speeds to them. So Frankenstein's plan to intersect it is to be shot out of the torpedo hull at it. And then they start fighting each other for a few pages. We also see that the Bride of Frankenstein and the dude from the first page, which I don't think ever actually has a name, but the dude from the first page, I'll just call him the scientist, they're seeing this fight and they're like, my husband will never be taken down by such a machine. And he's like, oh, well, we shouldn't be fighting anyway. Regardless, let me just push this button. So he pushes a button, which then allows the robot to talk underwater. And then it pops off the little Japanese flag on its forehead, and it replaces it with a star. And he's like, oh, my apologies, Mr. Frankenstein. I am working with the Allied forces. So my name is Jake, a.k.a. the Japanese Attack Killer Elite. But now I am the Joint Allied Killer Elite. So let's go talk to your boss. So they go talk to Father Time, and he's like, why should I trust this thing? And Frankenstein's like, I don't know, I trust him. And so in order to prove his trust, he tells him how there is a big attack being planned on New York and how they can possibly stop it if they act now, but it might be too late. And then we see what's going on in Chapter 4 with a Japanese man. He walks over to the edge of a pier, throws a briefcase in the water, and out pops freaking Cloverfield. It's this giant kaiju-sized like termite that comes out of the water and just starts attacking everybody. And so Frankenstein and Jake fly in, and they're like, "All right, I'm just gonna jump down and punch it in the face, and let's try to lure it away from the city." So Jake jumps down, punches it in the face, and then he's just dangling on a string as Frankenstein flies away. The monster takes it as the bait and like swallows Jake, which the whole plan was to take it out of the city. And apparently, despite the fact it was made in water, it doesn't have gills, so therefore it starts drowning out at sea. But Frankenstein's like, "I'm not letting you die, Jake." So he jumps off of his plane, jumps down to the monster, goes into its jaw, and then slashes his way out, saving Jake from an untimely death. And then we see that, okay, these guys, they're like a team. And despite the fact that you wouldn't expect it, they were a great team and they served in many wars defending freedom for many decades. And then we get a cut to Korea, 1951, where Jake and Frankenstein are both in camo gear. And they're like, "You know what? I really like you, Jake." And Jake's like, "I really like you too, Frankenstein." And then we see the pile of Korean soldiers' bodies that they are currently sitting upon. The end. What in the hell was that? I love it. It was like just so off the wall. I could definitely feel Jeff Lemire like influence because he's writing Frankenstein as well. I also felt him getting in here. It was good. It was a solid, just nice little like, oh, okay, that's just fun. It's just a fun little story. I guess my only complaint is that it just kind of feels rushed in a lot of ways, which, I mean, clearly it was. It had to establish all this stuff in just one issue, and it was telling a big story. But at the same point, like, I don't know. I just would have. I guess what it really comes down to is I wanted more from this concept, and I feel like if this is all I get, I'm a little bit disappointed out of it. But I would have liked to see, like, in every major war since World War II, these guys just showing up and doing things behind the scenes. Like, that would have been fun. So, no, overall, I'm going to give this one a 7. I think it's good. I do think there is a little bit holding it back, primarily the fact of it just feels so rushed. But, no, it's a fine story, and I appreciate, after such a serious war story in this entire book up till now, I appreciate how they can take this last issue and just have fun with it, just have a little bit of fun. So Men of War, last issue, I did enjoy it. It was a very good book overall. Maybe not for everybody, but I do think that it did a good job of telling a story through action rather than narration. And I think it was very good at that over the main story. So definitely check it out if you get the chance.